Welcome everybody to Revisiting Religion, and here's another episode for you guys. We've got Steve Marton, who is the president of Sydney Atheists and has been participating with Sydney Atheists for the last 13 years and other atheist communities within Sydney. Usually this channel is all about uncovering different beliefs, different religions, different ideas and thoughts. But today we're going to look at the lack of belief, the lack of religion. And we're going to look at atheism. What is atheism? What it's all about? What does it involve? And so we've got Steve here to go through all of that, all those interesting questions that you guys might have. So Steve, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a retired optometrist, former optometrist. I used to help people see literally, and then I've been trying to help people see in terms of belief systems. I play tennis, table tennis, croquet, bridge. I referee soccer in winter. I'm a grandparent, look after grandchildren, look after the wife, and that's life as I know it at the moment.
Keep me very active, like I said.
It does keep me active.
Perfect. So Steve, how long have you been an atheist for?
Probably since 14 or 15, I guess.
Oh wow.
Maybe a little bit younger.
Right. And so in your words, tell me what is an atheist?
Well, an atheist is a person that doesn't believe in any gods. It's funny that you have atheists because it's theist is a God believing person, and it doesn't define which God and how many gods, and it doesn't define which culture that God came from. So an atheist is a person that doesn't believe in gods, and it's strange that there is such a term because you don't have an believing that pigs fly, so you don't have people that are categorized because they don't believe that pigs can fly, and you don't. So it's a very strange term in some,
right,
for some reasons, but that's what it is. Yep.
Are there different types of atheists?
So
put it technical definition.
To put it in simplistic terms,
atheist
means not believing in any gods. Right. So there's nothing really to expand on there.
Yeah. So, can an atheist be spiritual?
Depends on your definition of spiritual.
Right. Okay. And what led you to be an atheist?
So, when I did science, there are probably two main factors. One was evolution made religion not make sense. So
the theory of evolution, natural selection.
So there's a theory of evolution, and then there is evolution.
Yep.
And evolution means to me that it makes no sense.
Right.
So for those that don't really understand evolution, let's put it in fast and immediate terms. For example, you could ask somebody, do you believe that there are bacteria around? And the answer is
yes.
Yes, there are bacteria. So do you believe that there are antibiotics that kill those bacteria?
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And do you find that sometimes bacteria change and that antibiotic is no longer effective? It doesn't kill that bacteria anymore.
Correct.
And that's evolution. So we can see evolution happening in a matter of days, weeks, months.
Yeah,
we see it happen very quickly.
Yep.
Understanding how long the Earth has been around and how long living things have been on planet, we understand that evolution has been going on for millions, indeed billions of years. So that led me to think, well, that the world is only a few thousand years old, planets, the stars, and everything else. It made no sense. Understanding how the universe works, that there are billions and billions and billions, unimaginable numbers of stars, unimaginable numbers of planets, moons, atoms, no God made any sense.
Right.
So I thought, no, I don't believe this anymore.
So was it a non-compatible, your thinking there was that this theory of evolutions seems like it's not compatible with my religion. And what was that religion that you were brought up in?
I was in a monotheistic belief system.
Okay. Right. And so, what was it that made you think this is not compatible? Was it that the claims of the religion itself, claiming that the Earth is young Earth creation view, and it comes along the theory of evolution to sort of just.
So I wasn't a philosophical person when I made my decision.
Right.
My decision was on the basis that evolution, not the theory of, the actuality of evolution, meant that any creations of gods that man has made over the millennia, in the many cultures, in many continents, in many societies, made no sense. And none of them made any sense.
Right.
And the fact that the universe is infinite, it made no sense that there was any sort of God that was involved in it.
Right, interesting. So do you think that it's possible to prove God's existence?
Which God?
The general understanding of a creator of our universe. If we look at a monotheistic Abrahamic faith.
So when you talk about a God, a monotheistic God, are you talking about the one that the Jews believe in, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Shia, the Sunni? Which one? Because they all differ. They all have a different version of it.
Let's pick the Jewish God, for example.
Right.
Judaism.
And how long has that God been around? Derived or determined?
Thousands of years.
2?
Let's say 2.
3?
Let's say 2 or 3. Let's say whatever you like. Let's argument's sake. Let's say 2 or 3.
Okay.
And the concept of that God is there. Do you think it's plausible to prove or disprove its existence?
So, from my research, that God was created for utility. It was created, in my view, so that potentially a fellow called Moses could enlist his soldiers to go into battle, and that he wasn't the driver of them going into battle, but it was his God. And in establishing his God, if they won in battle, he could say that they won in battle because of his God, and his God enabled them to win. And when they lost in battle, he could say that was your fault, the soldier's fault, because you didn't believe enough in that God. So he could deflect responsibility for losses in battle from himself to blame it on the people that he led, rather than him being accused of misconduct or inappropriate leadership. But when they won in battle, he was prepared to forego the kudos of taking kudos for winning in battle, and give that victory to a God.
Convenience.
So it's a very convenient thing. And of course, when you look at that, and that's the start of what we call the Abrahamic God, any understanding of that God is only a few thousand years old. That God is culturally aligned to one people, which were the Hebrews. Right. It wasn't culturally aligned to any other group on the planet. So it makes no sense that this culture, these Hebrews, had this particular God. But the Aztecs, the Incas, the Australian Aborigines, the Africans in deep darkest Africa, the Asians, the North Americans, that they didn't have this same God.
No,
they created their own gods, and gods are a very convenient way of controlling people, and that's how I see gods. And the Romans had their gods, the Greeks had their gods, the Scandinavian had their gods, and I give no more merit to an Abrahamic God just because it comes from the Middle East and it's culturally a relatively dominant belief system because it's been adopted by Christianity and Islam. I give it no more merit than I do Venus and Mars, the gods Venus and Mars.
And on what basis do you judge and determine the veracity of the claims of the religions? Do you look at the contents of the religion or the claims, or do you look at the put it in your terms, the conception of that religion, how it began the stories, the convenience, those sorts of arguments? Do you look at, what are the things that you look at to determine, okay, this seems to be more reasonable, this seems to be more truthful, or you just disregard them all the same way?
So from a rational and inquisitive point of view,
Yep.
none of it makes sense.
Sure. Okay.
So if we take the fact, and let me ask you, your understanding, how old is the universe?
Me personally, I rely on the scientific consensus, which is in billions.
How many?
13 point something billion years. 7 billion years. Yeah.
And how vast is it?
Oh, it's mind-boggling on how really almost infinite, I guess.
And that's the known universe.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so who knows how large and what scale the universe is. Yeah,
and who knows how many universes there are.
Yeah, it could be multiverse theory. It could be all these sorts of things. Yeah, correct.
So along comes this Moses story about a god. 2,000-3,000 years, maybe 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Along comes his story, and he professes this God who has created the earth. So let's take Moses coming along, and let's take Jesus coming along, and let's take Muhammad coming along.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a whole lot of rhetorical questions.
Yeah.
I don't expect answers.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to respond to whichever questions you like.
Why would a Hebrew God be of any value? Why would Jesus be of any value? Why would Muhammad be of any value? Why, if mankind, and we're just talking about Homo sapiens, how long do you understand Homo sapiens have been on the planet?
The number, it's quite difficult to pinpoint. But,
I mean approximately.
Earliest relations, I think, from limited research, is closest related to the Cro-Magnons.
No, that's not the question. The question is, how long have Homo sapiens been on?
So Homo sapiens, if you want to call it that, the first Homo sapien, probably around thousands of years ago. Probably,
how many thousand?
I'd say 10,000 years ago.
Keep going.
Let's say 20,
Keep going.
50,000,
Keep going.
100,000.
Keep going.
You give me the number.
It's over 200,000.
Over 200,000. Okay.
Could be as much as
Now,
300,000-400,000.
Just a clarification on that. When you say Homo sapien, which group of Homo sapiens? Because from my limited understanding, you've got Cro-Magnons, you've got Neanderthals.
They're not Homo sapiens.
Oh, so you don't consider them Homo sapiens?
A monkey, are apes and chimpanzees the same?
No.
They're not. Homo sapiens are not the same as Neanderthals, Australopithecus, Cro-Magnon, Homo erectus. They are all types of humankind, not our humankind.
Okay.
Types of humankind that have preceded us.
That's just the terminologies. So I'm using the term Homo sapien to refer to humankind. So you're distinguishing Homo sapiens from that group of humankind. So you're saying Homo sapiens are a distinct group of humans.
If you can use humans as a term.
Yeah, that's the issue I have, because I wasn't sure what you meant.
So Homo sapiens have been around for, and I can't remember exactly how much, but between 200,000 and 800,000 years, and they have coexisted with, say, Australopithecus.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Cro-Magnon, Neanderthals.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
But those other types of, if we can call them humans, have been around for how long?
It would be longer than
millions,
a couple of 100,000 years.
Millions of years.
Right.
So
I'm not too confident to say that. I'll just go with the current consensus on the biological understanding of.
So
whatever it is,
you date it.
I'll have to look into it, but I'll take your word for it for now. But I've just never heard millions before.
So Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon and all these things that preceded Homo sapiens have been around for way longer.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're in the millions. I don't know that.
More rhetorical questions.
Yes.
Why would a God that a large proportion of the people on this planet believe in, why would it start so late? why wouldn't it have happened millions of years ago? If this God has been around forever, why didn't it happen millions of years ago? Why did the leaders of these three major religions all just happen to be in the Middle East? All just happen to be influenced by the God that Moses created? Why don't people accept the various other gods? And of course, when it was just the Hebrews, it was a very small group of people. Then along came Jesus. It was a larger group of people, and when Christianity was adopted by the Roman Empire, then all of a sudden it was a utility, it was a useful item for the empire of Rome. Then along came Muhammad, and he had his empire, and it was the various empires that came under Islamic rule, and that was all in the Middle East. But it didn't happen in South America, it didn't happen in North America, it didn't happen in Australia, in all these other places. So to me it makes no sense that this Abrahamic God happened. And then there's the element that if you look at Abraham and you look at it from the viewpoint of the monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity and Islam, so having spoken to scholars of all those three religions, they have the utmost respect for Abraham, utmost respect for the man. He was a despicable human being. It was absolutely despicable. The things that he did, the way he ran his life, the way he treated his children, the way he treated his spouses was despicable. And yet he's revered as this amazing guy. And in my view, and if you go through what is written about Abraham through those three religions, he's a fictional character. But not only is he this one, but he's a fictitious character. And as absurd as he seems to be through the Bible, in the writings of Muhammad, he's become even more absurd. So it makes no sense.
Can you tell me some of that? So, like, what lens are you using to view Abraham first and foremost, and can you share some of your thoughts on how he's amplified in the Islamic tradition?
So with Abraham, he starts his journey at 75 years of age. His wife is also very old. They have children at a very old age. Well, first of all, he has a child with Hagar, and Hagar is his servant. And his wife, Sarah, offers Hagar to Abraham to copulate with and to create a child. So then they create Ishmael. And then at some point in her late 90s, which is preposterous, Sarah has her own child, which is Isaac. So now Ishmael and Hagar are surplus to requirements. So you know what Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael off with. What does he send them off with? A loaf of bread and a jar of water into the desert. And it goes on and on. I mean, he doesn't even allow Hagar to name her own child. His child is named by himself and his wife. He apparently, God says to him, cut your son's throat. And he's about to cut his son's throat, and some angels come by and said, hey Abraham, God's just joking, you don't really have to slit his throat. So taken in our understanding of psychology today, that is a horrendous thing to do, and that child would be scarred for life. His father's about to slit his throat and burn him. When Sarah dies, Abraham has a whole lot of wives and concubines. Where's the ethics in that? He's a very old man by now. Has he, understanding how the prostate works, what are the chances his prostate's still working at that sort of time in life anyway? But anyway, he has all these concubines and wives. And when he dies, he leaves everything that he has to his son Isaac. He leaves nothing to all those people that he's conceived, all those people that he's had relationships with. So that's just some of how
serious criticism of the characters, the people of the Bible.
He also blackmails. He also gains by blackmailing kings and leaders to give him a whole lot of goods, servants, money. He enriches himself by blackmailing.
But there's a whole lot of despicable actions, dreadful stories that to you don't make or don't add up. They don't seem to be morally upright. They don't seem to be ethical. And so all of these stories that you've read in the Bible seem to have turned you off from...
No.
That's not
far from it.
Representation? Okay.
The thing that turned me off believing in the Abrahamic gods or any other gods was evolution and the universe.
So that's the primary reason. That's the only reason. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
Right.
You keep saying theory, but it's not the theory.
Oh, no,
evolution.
I'm using it in
evolution is the
theory of gravity.
Okay.
I'm using it in a positive sense.
Okay.
Theory in the scientific.
So we're talking about evolution and the universe.
Clarified. Theory. The word theory is not guess. Okay. It doesn't mean guess.
That's okay. That's okay.
The germ theory, for example.
So they're the two factors.
Do you call germ theory, or do you call germ?
I'm fine with
germ
theory.
fact.
I'm fine with theory.
Well, that's the same equivalent understanding of theory of evolution.
Okay, we understand it. So that's okay.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, they're the two factors that changed me.
Evolution.
Subsequent to that, I started to wonder, why do people believe what to me is insane? Why do they believe these insane systems? And then I started to read the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran with a critical mind. And one of the things that's fascinating for me is that if you are a Jew, you are prepared to overlook the absurdities of Judaism, but you're prepared to look at the absurdities of Christianity and Islam. If you're a Catholic Christian, you're prepared to accept the absurdities of Catholicism, but not prepared to accept the absurdity of Judaism, Protestantism, or Islam. And to take it further, if you're a Shia Muslim or a Sunni Muslim, you're prepared to accept the absurdities of whichever one of those Islamic religions you are, but not prepared to accept the absurdities of the other Islamic faith and the Judaism, Christianity, and all the other religions that they don't even look at.
I understand your
viewpoint. They don't look at Aztecs and Incas and Scandinavians. So
that's an interesting viewpoint.
It's a very, very biased thing. But that look at the Abrahamic religions came 40, 50 years after I stopped believing in any gods.
Right. Yeah. So the one and only reason that got you to drift away from your faith was evolution, and I'll call it evolution, and the universe, the dating and the age of the universe, and all those things, right? And then subsequently, you looked into religion with a critical mind. You read the Hebrew Bible, New Testament, Quran, and that also further added to the disbelief because of...
No. It didn't add to the disbelief.
Oh, you just sort of assessed it and said you were not convinced.
I was trying to understand why people believe these things.
Right, I see.
And I now understand why people believe these things.
So
because they're immersed in those religions and unprepared to question and critically look at the factors in those religions.
Oh, very interesting viewpoint. So just want to remind the viewers that Steve has a book called The Man Who Created God. And these are some of the ideas that you've sort of just mentioned here, that man's created God for their own purpose, for their own convenience.
And power. And
right.
Financially aggrandizement.
Yeah. So just a challenging question, just to play devil's advocate here, because I'm not here to defend my faith. I'm more than happy to. As you know, I come from the Muslim faith. But that could be a later portion of this interview. But one challenging point I wanted to make was, and I wanted you to get your thoughts on this, if man is creating God for his own purpose, power and whatnot, why would they create a disciplinary system where you're required to do certain actions that are not necessarily likable, enjoyable, favorable, such as prayer, fasting, sacrificing, all those sorts of things? So what's your response to that?
That's a very good question. Very good question, Mark. So these religions are religions of conquest. So Judaism was all about, and the Hebrews were all about grabbing some land once they came out of Egypt. Christianity was utility for the Roman Empire. Islam was utility for Muhammad and his empire, and the empire that came to subsequent leaders of Islam. Once you've conquered somebody, what do you want? What do you want? Once you've conquered something, what do you want?
Many things.
For example,
you're talking about a leadership, an empire. Are you talking about an empire that's taken over land?
Yep. So you've got that,
and people.
You've got that because
you want order, peace. You want
peace. You want peace. You want people to get along.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter which empire you look at. They want to subjugate the people, and they want peace, and they want them to get along. Just taking.
And who are they? Sorry, the leaders here. You're saying the kings, the leaders. Okay.
Of course. The whatever leaders they might be, whether they're the imams, the priests, the rabbis, whatever they were. Once you've done your conquests,
yeah,
you want to control people,
right,
and you control them by giving them a set of rules. The set of rules are set in stone, aren't they? Moses put everything, and he set it in stone.
Yeah.
Christianity and Islam didn't necessarily set it in stone, but they've got their rules, and those rules today, most of them, many of them, are absurd rules.
Based on what? What are you measuring those rules by? I guess that's another question I had in there, so I might as well ask you now.
Sure.
What's your measuring stick? What's your frame of morality and ethical understanding?
So, for example, and there are many of them, but you're married.
Yes.
You have a wife. Do you love her?
Yes.
Okay.
It's recording, so I definitely do love my wife.
Could you imagine being a homosexual? Could you become one?
No.
You couldn't become a homosexual?
No.
Okay. I couldn't either. However, in as much as I couldn't become a homosexual, why should we expect a homosexual to become heterosexual?
Why would you expect a homosexual to
That's
be?
wrong. That's wrong. And all those religions say that
why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong? What?
To expect a homosexual to become a heterosexual. What makes it wrong?
It's wrong to expect a homosexual to become heterosexual.
Yeah.
You can't change what you are.
So you say it's impossible, or it's wrong? Because wrong seems to be an ethical implication there. It seems to be a moral implication. You say wrong.
Well, these three religions morally say that homosexuality is bad. It's a sin, and potentially you should die for it. You should be stoned to death for it. But in as much as we couldn't become homosexual, it's inappropriate to expect a homosexual to become heterosexual.
Inappropriate is probably the better word there, not wrong.
So
I don't understand your moral framework yet.
So these imposts by these three religions are bad, and they're inappropriate, and there are a whole lot of those things that you can't.
But again, what's your measuring stick? What's bad, wrong, right, good, evil? What's your frame of morality there?
So hold on. Is it moral to expect other people to behave and be like you? Is that moral? Is it moral to expect everybody to be the same as you?
Depends how you are. I mean,
what's to say you're more right than anybody else?
Yeah, that's the question I'm asking you, because from an atheist worldview,
there's no atheist worldview.
Sorry, from an atheist perspective.
There's no atheist perspective.
So do you have a perspective yourself as an atheist?
I have a perspective.
So as Steve's perspective.
As Steve's perspective, yeah. because not all atheists believe it.
No,
have the same ideas on everything.
Right. So you differ on your beliefs of morality with potentially other atheists. You'd have.
I differ on my belief of morality to many people,
right?
And yet we have many points of agreement.
Sure. So, but
do you believe you should kill somebody?
I don't.
No.
Right.
So,
Unless you are forced into a self-defense position, and you
but
happen
ostensibly,
ostensibly not.
you wouldn't go out of this
No.
library and kill somebody
No,
just
absolutely
because
not.
you felt like it.
No,
That
absolutely
would be morally wrong.
correct. It's
So
immoral.
we're agreed on that.
Yes.
And there are a whole lot of things that we agree on.
Well, how
And
do you,
we
why,
agree.
why do you agree on that, though? What's making you agree on that? Is
Ah.
it yourself? Is it your instinct? Is it your societal norms? Is it your community agreement? Or what's
A bit of all of those, but from
Right.
a logical point of view,
yeah? So logic, you're using logic.
and rationality.
So what if your logic and rationality differs from another person's logic and rationality, and somebody else's logic tells him to do something quite the opposite of what you think you ought to do?
For example,
Oh well, we have examples in the real world of thieves, rapists, pedophiles, incest, all these things that we deem immoral and wrong and evil. People may have differing views on them, and they may be atheists. So it's like,
there may be anything.
yeah, they could be Muslims, Christians, Jews, yeah. But for the theists, they have a moral framework which is bound in their religion. They're binding rules and regulations.
And do they always follow those rules?
No,
Can they be forgiven for not following those rules?
potentially, yeah. Some of them, yeah. But
So I can't be forgiven
yes,
if I do something that I feel is inappropriate, immoral, wrong.
Mm.
I'm not going to get forgiveness. I have to live with that.
Yeah.
Or the law will make sure that
Mm.
they deal with my behaviour if it's inappropriate.
Right. So your basis of morality is based on the law that you live in? Not really?
Well, it is,
Is it-
but
Yeah.
I don't look at every aspect of the law to see if something's appropriate. I have a moral compass, if you like,
And
that
where does that
guides
come
me.
from?
Well, my moral compass basically means that would I like you to slap me in the head? No. So I wouldn't slap you in the head,
I wouldn't like it either.
right?
Yeah.
So, in effect, people should consider how they like to be treated
Right.
and treat others with the same respect and
Golden
diligence
Okay.
that they wouldn't
Yeah.
like
Okay.
to be treated.
Fair enough. But yeah, so different customs and traditions have their own teachings, I guess, codes of conduct, rules, ethics. Yeah. And so did the Abrahamic faith. But I'm just wondering, because of your critique on the characters, and I have the same critique of the Jewish by the Hebrew Bible portrayal of prophets. I had a massive critique and an issue with that too. Likewise with you. But playing devil's advocate here, you seem to be against the stories of the prophets. Abraham is one example. And your disgust of certain stories, that's coming from your, just to clarify, that's coming from your own compass, moral compass, that's telling you what this person has done is wrong. It's despicable, it's evil, it's going against every fiber in your body. That it's coming from your own moral compass, right?
That would be reasonable to say.
Yeah. Okay. So you judge right and wrong. So you want to go and decide to do something, you would consider it within yourself, logically, rationally, reasonably, and then you look at the law of the country and you say to yourself, no, if I do that, that's considered illegal, or I don't feel like that's a good thing to do.
The first reaction would be, is any action that I take appropriate or inappropriate from the point of logic, rationality, and
Okay.
reason? If there's something that I'm not sure about,
Yeah.
I guess I might look at the law.
Right.
But
So is it subjective? Your morality, is it a subjective morality or an objective one? Does it always stay the same, or does it change based on different cultures, times? For example, is rape wrong at all times?
Yes,
Murder is wrong at all times?
correct.
Is there ever a time where murder would be acceptable? Apart from the self-defense example.
Murder is never acceptable.
Never acceptable.
Do you consider murder to be acceptable?
No. I'm just trying to figure out your measuring stick. What about, and we've talked about this before, what about incest? Do you consider that wrong, immoral? Where do you draw the line?
Incest is inappropriate.
But if somebody were to engage in incest consensually, would you consider them inappropriate beings? Would you say that they're acting immoral or just acting inappropriate? Because of your own, you just don't
I guess whatever I say is irrelevant to the act.
Right. But there's no consequences, no repercussions at all. It's the two consenting beings who want to engage in incest, and they're happy with it. Do you still consider it inappropriate, or do you...
It's none of my business.
Right. So you wouldn't consider it immoral?
It's none of my business.
Right. Are there any other...
I wouldn't do it myself.
Why wouldn't you?
I would feel it extremely uncomfortable.
Well, how come though? Well, what's telling you that?
I
Just
guess
natural instinct?
I guess so.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, and that was one of my questions: is morality subjective or objective? So, it seems like there are times where morality can change.
I could try to think of an example, but I can't think of an example.
If you're Hitler, for example, believing in what you did was moral and okay, acceptable.
I would never be Hitler.
I know, living in Hitler's time, he had a lot of followers that would have supported him on certain things. Were they being immoral for what they believed?
To follow Hitler?
Yeah.
Were they being immoral?
Yes.
Totally. They weren't being rational, they weren't being reasonable.
Right.
They weren't thinking.
But what if the society had agreed collectively that this is the right way to go and it's an essential belief we have to...
Well, then I think that society's corrupt.
Right. And what makes our society now not corrupt and changeable and not changeable? What if it changes later?
What's to say our society isn't corrupt?
Yeah. So it is...
Is there corruption in our society?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So is that a limitation?
Do I agree with it? No.
Right.
Should it be brought to the law and dealt with? 100%.
So how do you unify, or how are you unified with your fellow atheists in terms of agreeing on certain morality? If you disagree with one another, for example, like for the theists, they can always go back to the law, the book, and it's clearly written there. There's a moral compass there. But with atheists, you could differ on certain things. So what is it that how do you then agree on what's immoral?
So I can't think of a time that we sit down together as a group of atheists to say what's moral. It's not something that comes up in conversation. But
right,
and atheists, can a Muslim be extremely left-wing in their thinking?
Yeah.
Can they be extremely right-wing in their thinking?
Yes.
So can an atheist. So there isn't necessarily a commonality about atheism any more than there is about any other group of people.
Right. The earlier point you made with the Earth being older than 6,000 years, that's probably a divergence from the Hebrew Bible, not necessarily the Islamic tradition. What's your thoughts on this? Because some would argue that Islam or Christianity or whatever religion is not necessarily mutually exclusive or incompatible with science. Science could be a tool used for theists that go along with their belief in God. What's your thoughts on that? So, for example, you mentioned evolution, you mentioned the age of the universe. If one were to come and say, I'm a theist, I believe in God, and I also accept evolution, I accept the Big Bang theory, whichever theory is multiverse theories, and I rely on the scientific consensus on day-to-day things, they're not clashing for me. What's your thoughts on that?
So my view is that people can believe whatever they want to believe. That's their choice. I don't determine what anyone believes. They can believe whatever they like.
Yeah.
If people, to take it to the nth degree, if people want to believe that pigs can fly, I'm perfectly happy for them to believe that. Yeah. As long as they don't force me to do something that's against my will,
right?
As long as they don't interfere with my freedom to do what I like.
Yeah. So, but what's your response to a theist who accepts all the things that you accept, in which led you to go against your faith, and the theist is using it to support his faith, complementing his faith? What if you were able to do both? Would that convince you otherwise or change your view?
Convince me otherwise of what?
Of going against the religion. where you felt like evolution took you away from your faith because it seemed like impossible for God to create the world when you can clearly see the evidence of the evolution? But what if you see the evidence of evolution and you still believe in God, that God created this form of evolution? Did you ever consider that? Ponder on the fact that God could have been the
Which God? Why not these?
The same-
Venus and Mars.
no,
why
the
not,
same
why
God.
Not, why not Poseidon?
the same God
Why
you
not?
believed in?
Why not the Aztec God?
Agree.
So
But I only bring up that God because that was the God you believed in.
which I've made very clear. I don't believe in that
No,
God.
you
It
previously
makes no sense.
yeah previously you brought up in an upbringing faith.
And we are what we are informed by.
Yeah.
So you have been brought up in a Shia Islamic family.
Right.
That is your that's the information that you have, and you're informed by that,
Sure.
and you are what you are informed
at a
by.
point in time.
That's what you're informed by. So
Sure,
somebody
it's a point in time.
So somebody who is informed by Trump being a magnificent human being
Yeah.
believes that Trump is a magnificent human being.
Yes.
Somebody who's informed that by Hitler being a great man, or Putin or Stalin or goodness knows who, that is what they're informed by. That's what they are. And it's a matter of stepping back from that and looking at things from a critical point of
Yeah,
view
exactly.
to say,
Yeah.
no, I don't believe that, and I won't make excuses to accept somebody's belief
Yeah.
just because they think that belief
Yeah.
fits in with science.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But you're only what you're. So speaking of evolution, people do change, and people eventually use their critical mind, and they think they either step back and question everything and challenge everything.
Some people do, some people
Don't. But even when you step back, are you not then able to challenge your own perspective, your worldview, and be convinced of it, and continue further with your faith? Is that not a possibility?
Sorry, I don't have a faith.
No. For someone who has a faith and then challenges that faith, steps back and looks at the whole wider picture, is it possible for them to be further convinced after assessing all the information that they have available to them, and remain convinced in their faith? And therefore, it's no longer what I've been brought up in; it's now what I've studied, researched, and convinced in. Is that not a possibility?
So the difficulty with those steps is this: if one has a belief system, call it belief system A, and that's what they're informed by, and that's what they are. They step back, become critical of what's going on, and think, actually, I accept all these other factors. But despite all of that, I'm prepared to marry all of that in with my belief system A.
Yep.
So they've accommodated what is factual with their belief system and still continued with their belief system. So for example,
Give me some examples.
if you're a doctor, you know that evolution occurs. You know, let's say that you're it doesn't matter what sort of doctor you are. You're a doctor. You know these things. You're intelligent person, but you are informed by religion A. Everything about religion A you're prepared to accept, but there are factors that challenge your belief in A.
Okay. Such as?
That the world didn't start 6,000 years ago, for example. That there is evolution. There's proof of evolution. They can see simply with antibiotics. There's evolution,
But what if you believe in that?
But they don't accept that evolution's happened, or they make excuses such as, oh well, there's evolution now, but there wasn't evolution before. So God created the world. God created humankind as it is. But subsequent to that, now we've got sort of evolutionary things happening, and they are prepared to make excuses.
No, I see what your point. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
They're prepared to make excuses that fit in with their worldview.
What if you don't make any excuses and your worldview matches it is aligned with science and reason and rationality? What if your religion is a reasonable, rational one and allows you to continue on with your life, not be in conflict with science? What's the situation there?
So that leads you to believe in a God.
Yeah.
Then that's, in my view, and so in my view, that's not rational.
So 7 billion, roughly 7 billion people in this world are irrational people?
Sad, isn't it?
You believe that?
100%.
So a theist in your worldview, not your worldview, sorry, a theist in your point of view is an irrational being because of their belief in a creator.
Yep.
Right. So that to you is an irrational belief, even though they would have potentially been rationally convinced of that position.
But then, if they're
Yeah.
that's a conflict of terms. So to be rationally convinced of the terms is in fact irrational, because it's irrational to believe that there are gods out there.
And that's your spin on it, like
100%.
yeah. So
People look,
could
let
say-
me make this perfectly clear.
yeah.
People can believe whatever they like.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with people believing whatever they like. They can believe that pigs
Yeah, of
can
course,
fly.
of course.
Don't have a problem with that. But in my own mind,
Yeah.
if I'm talking to somebody and they say pigs can fly,
Yeah.
then in my own mind I'm thinking that is irrational.
Right.
And it makes no sense. And they can talk about pigs flying, and they can show me pictures, they can do whatever they
Yeah, of
like
course, absolutely,
to try to make me believe that pigs can fly.
Yeah.
But in my own mind,
Yeah.
I'm not going to abuse them.
No, I get that. I
I'm not going to
completely
be
The meaning, rude, or whatever.
all that.
Yeah.
I
That's
accept
your
it,
belief. You reject it.
but do I believe it makes sense?
No. To you, it's irrational. What if there was a theist who says your belief is irrational, of lack of belief?
That's fine. They can think whatever they like.
So then, what is your means of, if speaking of rationality, what's your means of getting to the bottom of it? We're at an impasse here, right?
Getting to the bottom of what?
So there's an atheist and a theist, and they're both calling each other irrational because of their faith and lack of, right? So then how do you then get to the bottom of whether one is actually being irrational and who's being rational, who's being not rational? How do we test that?
What's it matter?
Well, you made the claim of someone being rational or
What's it
irrational.
matter?
Because if you're rational, isn't that a positive step towards seeking the truth? If truth really matters.
But I've got every truth that I need. If
Yeah.
somebody has an alternate truth or an alternate belief system, that's their business.
Right.
They do whatever they like.
For you,
I'm not going to impose
Yeah.
what I believe or don't believe on somebody else.
Right. Fair enough.
If I vote, for party A in an election, and somebody else votes for party B, am I going to hate them for it?
No,
am I
no,
going
no,
to?
absolutely not, no.
Am I going to have a problem with that?
Yeah.
No, it's their
No,
business,
absolutely,
not my
yeah.
business.
But as a truth
Somebody
seeker,
wants to believe.
if you're a truth seeker, you want to know the truth, whether God exists or not.
Well, I know that God doesn't exist in my mind.
In your mind, okay.
That's all that matters to me. So that somebody else believes that there's a God,
Right.
that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
But wouldn't you want to share your proof or conviction of there not being a God with others? Is it only in your mind?
I'm perfectly happy to discuss it with anybody.
Right. But what if you're... so do you think you can be convinced otherwise as an atheist? Are you open to other ideas?
For example,
Well, the obvious one, concept of God. Are you open to consider the existence of God?
so I have been open to the existence of God all my life.
Right.
Thus far, there is nothing to convince me that there is any God.
That leads me to my interesting question I have for you. Is what criteria or evidence would convince you that God exists? Because you said thus far your whole life you haven't been convinced of God. I'm assuming you're using some sort of measurement stick to determine what's going to convince you and what's not going to convince you. I'm very curious to see what you've used thus far to test whether or not, okay, this is going to convince me, this is not going to convince me. You have a marking criteria that we can both adopt to look at this.
I don't believe so.
So it's a subjective conviction that you have that God does not exist. Is that a correct statement?
It's a subjective
Conviction.
conviction. Subjective. Subjective means that it's my point of view.
Yeah.
Well, totally, yeah.
So when you say you're open to evidence of God, it seems like you're selectively open because you're only considering your own yardstick. What's your criteria? You say, okay, for example, this God.
Tell me this.
Yeah.
Why don't you believe in the Aztec gods?
I believe them how? Believe that they existed, that they
existed,
belief system
and
was
that their
there.
gods are the perfect gods. Why don't you believe that?
Because the starting point claims of multiple gods for me doesn't make any sense. It's
Why
irrational.
not?
Because then you have a conflict of creators.
But there's conflict in the world now. There's a conflict in the universe. Why wouldn't that be a problem?
Conflict in people, but not necessarily a creator.
But that's your view. That's your view. You're taking the Islamic view of an Aztec society that had a whole lot of gods.
Yeah.
But you haven't looked at those gods
Yeah.
and appraised them with any depth.
Right.
You haven't looked at the Inca gods and appraised them with any depth. You haven't looked at the Scandinavian gods and appraised them with any depth. You believe it.
But the difference here is I have a criteria. I can go out there and say, okay, you claim that to whichever religion you want, I'm open to be convinced. But
you haven't looked at the evidence for it.
But I'm already convinced. So
So you haven't looked at the evidence.
No, but if somebody has a different point of view, I'm more than happy to hear it and consider it.
But you haven't sorted out. Why haven't you?
Why haven't I sorted out what evidence?
All the other gods.
I have. I just said I'm convinced with one God and not multiple gods.
But what?
Because I
How
had
deeply have you looked at these other gods?
Well,
When did you look at the
I
Scandinavian
didn't go
gods?
further than the belief of monotheism, because for me monotheism makes the most sense. So therefore I've gone with monotheism.
But you are informed by your monotheistic belief system. You're not informed by a multiple god belief system. Why don't you consider Hinduism? Why don't you accept the Hindu gods?
Again, it goes back to the primary point here of monotheism versus polytheism. And so for me, rationally, monotheism is true.
So for me, rationalism is atheism is true. Sense.
The difference here is I believe in the existence of a God.
A god.
You don't.
That god.
You don't.
But
So no. You're trying to.
I don't believe in that one God, but I don't believe in any of the gods.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in a monotheistic God that isn't a Judaic, Islamic,
That's fine.
or Christian
That's fine.
God.
Doesn't have to necessarily look. We don't even need to mention any particular cultures or religions. You could just pin this down to a deistic type of God, creator of the universe, a higher being, supreme being, whatever you want to call
So
it.
why didn't this God that you believe in? Why didn't he present a Moses-like creature 300,000 years ago? Why didn't he create a Jesus figure 300,000 years ago? Why didn't he create a Muhammad figure 300,000 years ago? Why did he pick Jesus, who wrote nothing? He wrote nothing. He was on this planet, he was supposedly God, and you disagree with that, I understand that. He was on planet Earth for 33 years, he wrote nothing. Why would God choose an illiterate who wrote nothing in the man of Muhammad? Why didn't he choose somebody who was literate that could write down the things that he may have wanted?
It seems like various criticisms of the religion,
I'm critical.
rather than
I'm critical.
Yeah, but you're not critical of God's existence. You're rather more
I'm
critical.
totally critical of God's existence.
But your primary, you seem to jump straight into, again, the character references, character portrayals of prophets, questioning why God did such and such, rather than questioning God's existence itself.
I'm prepared to question everything.
I would suggest, and this is more of an informal conversation now rather than an interview, I would suggest that you ought to look at God's existence first and foremost.
But I have. I've spent my whole life doing
So, but then your criticism shouldn't be of the religion.
My criticism can be anything I like.
Yeah, but then you're dismissing God's existence. So
No.
why don't we deal
Yes, I disagree with God's existence.
Right.
That's what we've been saying the whole
But
time.
you seem to dismiss God's existence and then jump straight into, why did God create a illiterate man, or why did he make Abraham act in this
It's
despicable
all
way?
part of the same discussion.
But that doesn't have, it has no bearing on whether or not God exists or not. God could exist and still do all those things that you're critical of. God could exist and the Hebrew Bible could be true. He could have done all those things. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with prophets being portrayed in an evil, sinful way. But that has no bearing on whether or not God exists or not. God can exist and be evil, according to you.
God can exist and be evil.
Yes.
He doesn't exist.
Okay, so then let's not...
How can he be evil?
Okay, so I would suggest we not talk of the portrayals of the prophets and rather talk on the question of
why would we limit what we talk about?
Because you're an atheist, you don't believe God exists.
So why are we talking about it at all?
No, we should be talking about whether or not God exists.
Why?
Because you don't agree with it, you don't accept it.
End of story.
Don't you want to share why you don't accept it?
Well, I've told you.
Yeah, so when I asked you what's your criteria to determine whether God exists or not, you said it's a personal belief. It's your own subjective acceptance of God doesn't exist.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a personal acceptance that God does exist. How do we...
Good on you.
Okay, but where does that take us? Where do we
need to go?
To the truth. Does he exist or not?
Well, your truth is that he exists. My truth is he doesn't exist. In a story.
So we could have multiple differing truths?
So your truth is that there is a God.
Yes.
My truth is there is no God.
Yeah.
No further discussion of your client.
Does truth matter?
Of course it matters. They'll come to the conclusion that there is no God.
Okay, but shouldn't there be a way of determining what's right, what's true, what's not true?
But I have determined what's right and what's wrong, what's true.
So if you've determined what's right, what's true, what's not true, you should, I'm assuming, you should be able to share with me a criteria on how you determine what's right and what's wrong. Not right, wrong, sorry, what's true and what's not true. Shouldn't there be a criteria? What are you using?
Example.
What's if I want to determine something exists, I will start by, I have a checklist. Okay, what is the claim of this particular thing? Where can I find it? What messages are there? What signs of evidence? I would have a long list of checklists.
Good on you.
What's your checklist?
Good on you. I don't have a checklist.
So if you want to determine that this is a real table right now, what do you do? You'll touch it and feel it
and look at it.
Okay. What else? What's your? That's what I'm trying to get at. What's your
conclusion? It's table.
What's your Okay. So now, what's your criteria that God doesn't exist?
I think we're repeating ourselves here.
So, what was the method of you convincing yourself? Was it just evolution?
But I told you.
Yeah, but okay. Like when I asked you earlier, what evidence would convince you otherwise? You seemed, correct me if I'm wrong, but you seemed to say that there wasn't any evidence that could convince you otherwise.
Well, try me out. Give me some evidence, and I can appraise it.
In order for me to give you evidence, I need to know a criteria of what would convince you, so that I don't offer you something that's already.
But if I'm not convinced,
you understand
if I'm not convinced that there's a God, how do I know what would prove to me that there is a God?
Well, then, how are you so sure that there is no God? Surely there was a method, right? The method was you figuring out or discovering evolution.
We're banging the same stuff.
I just want you to try to at least understand where I'm coming from.
I understand where you're coming from.
Okay,
it's not going to get us anywhere.
So we're at an impasse here.
We're not an impasse. Here's the other problem. This God has only been known in an Islamic way for 1,600 years. Why wasn't it known for 300,000 years? Why was it only in the Middle East? Why is this God empowering a man who is an imperialist? Islam was an imperialist group that conquered. It conquered from Mecca right through to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, to Morocco, to Algeria, to Turkey, to Iran, to Pakistan, to Bangladesh. And it was about a religion of conquest.
Yeah, you not distinguish between Islamic conquest and Islamic religion, because there are countries that weren't conquered and they've accepted Islam. So do you distinguish between the two?
That's fine, but that is a not a military conquest. That's a religious conquest.
Yeah.
So religions have conquered many places.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. The Islamic claim is that prophets were sent to all nations all around the
When?
from the beginning of time.
When?
For the sake of argument, just go back to the furthest time of history.
Let's go back a million years.
Okay, go back a million years. Yeah.
Okay.
The idea is that God would have sent revelation. This is the Islamic position. God would have sent revelation to all mankind. Whether they, that's
Do you believe that happened?
it reasonably makes sense because
How does it?
if God
That
exists,
they had no writing.
if God
They
exists,
had none of the skills that we have.
revelation doesn't necessarily need to be writing. It could be inspiration. It could be communicating to us in different ways.
So why doesn't he communicate to me?
Maybe he has.
He hasn't.
From my point of view, it's between you and God.
That's your point of view.
Yeah. I'll just try one more time, and if we don't get anywhere, I'll move on to the next question, I promise. Earlier, and I'm using logic here, because I'm trying to be as logical and reasonable as possible. Earlier, I asked you what evidence would convince you that God exists, and you said that you don't know, because you're convinced that God doesn't exist. And then you said, well, try me out, give me something. But before I can offer you something, I should rationally know what is the criteria, what are some of the things that would make you believe that God exists, so that I can produce it to you. Because if I don't know what's going to convince you, I'll be wasting my time telling you.
You are wasting your time. So let's say God appeared right now, sat on that chair and said, hey Steve, I'm God and I am all powerful, and all the shit that's happening on this planet I've either caused or I've allowed to happen. All the shit that's happened on the planet, all the deaths, all the murders, all the rapes, everything that happens, I've either not bothered to stop or I've caused. That would prove to me.
But that would prove that's your criteria. There we go. We got there eventually.
Okay, will prove to me there's a God.
So that's your criteria. I just want to get that.
That's one criteria.
So then give me all the other ones.
I don't know. Well, I'd have to be very imaginative, and I don't have the time or inclination.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair point. But until you figure out the criteria, I will then follow that criteria, because until then I could give you anything and you say no, not convinced, doesn't make sense to me. Well,
correct.
I'll just wait until you figure out that criteria. But that one criteria that you mentioned, God coming down and speaking to you, telling you these things, that would convince you, right?
It could.
So you're not even sure whether or not it will.
How do I know it's not fake? So God comes, sits on that chair and explains why he's been shit all this time, or why he has allowed shit to happen.
Does that matter whether he's allowed things, or does it?
Sure, it matters.
Does it not just matter whether or not he exists first and foremost?
Has allowed Palestinians, Ukrainians, Africans to be killed, or he has killed them. So he's either an enabler or he's an active participant. Which one is he?
So let's say
which one is he?
Well, let's say he's enabling.
Which one is he?
I'm answering. Let's say he's enabling. Right, and there's a system that he's created in place, good and bad, it's good and evil.
Why doesn't he make a perfect system?
Because there is heaven and hell after this life.
You can't prove to me that there's a heaven or a hell.
Well, I can reasonably convince you that there is.
Yeah, you can't.
I can.
Where is it?
I can't show you it. It's not a. I can't show you it in a laboratory.
How can you prove it?
Well, it's a philosophical question. I can believe it because I'm convinced of the Islamic position. I'm firm in the belief in God and the claims of the Quran. And the claims of the Quran is that after this life, you will be judged and you will enter paradise.
But you don't know where it is.
Well, there's a lot of things I don't know where it is, but I know that they exist.
But you're prepared to accept it on the basis of somebody writing a book?
I'm prepared to accept it on the basis that God tells me.
No, it's written in a book. God hasn't told you anything.
But God is the one who revealed the book.
How do you mean revealed the book? Muhammad didn't even write the book.
Yeah.
People wrote the book.
Correct.
According to Muhammad talking about it.
Correct.
But he didn't even write the book.
That's one belief. There's another belief that it was compiled within his lifetime. And
so on the basis of this book, on the basis of these writings, of these 94 Shura, you're prepared to accept all these stories on the basis of this book.
It's not just the basis of the book.
I can't accept that.
So what is it? What exactly don't you accept from the Quranic perspective? Because we heard your...
Because it's a load of baloney. I read through the Quran. I read through the Quran,
an example?
And I tried to understand how it all worked, and it made no sense. And not even a sentence could I get through and think, oh, that's reasonable.
Can you give me an example of anything that's unreasonable?
Well, read the book.
I have read the book.
The man who created God.
I do. That's on my list. I would read that.
Go for it.
But I mean, if you're so convinced of the foolishness of the Quran, surely you could produce one evidence of one, like just one example.
I'd have to. I haven't read it for like 10 years.
But back then, when you read it, you were so convinced that it was unreasonable,
Totally.
and you can't name me one example. Maybe part 2 we'll get Steve a Quran.
So why would he bother sledging his uncle? Why would he bother sledging his uncle? Why would he get on a flying horse? Why would he fly from Mecca to Jerusalem? Why did he stop people drinking alcohol? Yet in heaven, they've got rivers of alcohol, because he didn't want inebriated soldiers. When they went to fight, he wanted them to be,
It's your opinion.
to be sober.
These are non-arguments. All these things that you mentioned.
You asked me for examples. I've given
No,
examples.
you haven't demonstrated how these are unreasonable, because these are.
Oh, you think they're reasonable?
So drinking alcohol, avoiding drinking alcohol is unreasonable.
Avoiding drinking alcohol
Yeah.
is unreasonable.
You think that's unreasonable? Being
If
intoxicated to you is reasonable. So you agree
I've never been intoxicated. Not interested in being intoxicated.
So what do you disagree with that statement? That do not drink.
So, because it has value to Muhammad, in that his troops go to fight, and they're not intoxicated. It's one of the great values. It's one of the great values of the Islamic soldiers, that they weren't intoxicated. When they fought Christian soldiers, they were
It's a
intoxicated.
bit of a jump there, because the verses say do not
You've asked me.
come to the mosques
You've asked
intoxicated to pray. It's not about fighting. It's about praying. And obviously you don't want to fight if you're drunk, obviously.
But it all fits into the same scheme, and I can see that. You can't see that. But the fact that they can drink in heaven with rivers of alcohol,
in a different way. Not the same way. Not there'll be no intoxication. That's the description of the Quran. There'll be no intoxication.
but they get the same full feeling.
It'll be a pleasure. Yes, it will be.
But they can in heaven,
Yeah.
not on earth.
Yeah, because on earth you get intoxicated.
Okay.
That's the reasoning.
Okay.
There are benefits to drinking, and there are also pros and cons, and there's more that outweigh the benefits in drinking. That's the logic that it tells you, and so therefore avoid all intoxicants. But you seem to not think that is a reasonable belief.
To not be intoxicated.
Yeah.
Well, as I've said to you, I've never been intoxicated. I'm not interested in being intoxicated.
Yeah.
I have over the years liked the taste of wine.
Right.
I have over the years liked the taste of beer.
Right.
But I've never been intoxicated.
So on that basis, you technically should agree with the teaching to not drink.
But I don't need anybody to teach me that. I'll come to that conclusion with my own mind.
Yeah. But at least you can say the conclusion I came up with in my mind aligns with that Quranic teaching.
I agree that intoxication is unwise.
Yes. So that's one thing that we've just gathered that you agree with, that you think is reasonable, and that's in the Quran.
Right. And are you suggesting, therefore, I should agree with everything in the
No, I'm just responding to your claim that it was all full of unreasonable foolishness, and I just demonstrated that there was actually one point there that you agree with.
Okay. So
You admit that.
not everything in the Quran
Thank you.
is despicable.
Thank you.
Not everything in the Old Testament and New Testament is
Thank you.
despicable.
Agreed.
But there are a whole lot of things that are either inappropriate or despicable.
And maybe the next time we discuss this, you could bring them onto the table, because I'd love to hear what you have to say and share with me what you think is despicable, what's foolish, and what's unreasonable. And I challenge you respectfully to find me something, because if it's something that you know and I don't know, I would love to be convinced otherwise. Again, I'm open, but I don't see much of that openness from you.
I really don't understand what you're saying.
At what point do you say, okay, you're right, I'm going to take those claims back. I don't think it's foolish. I don't think it's unreasonable. Would there ever be a possibility of that?
Do you mention that you could?
I think I could with the Quran, but
You couldn't. Not in a
Middle East.
in a being.
Well, okay. To each their own. The Quran says there's no propulsion in religion. So you have your faith, your way, I have my way. End of story. But it doesn't mean that we can't have interesting dialogue.
Very happy to do that.
Doesn't mean we can't have conversations about it.
Very happy
It
to.
doesn't mean that we hide it behind the pillow and say, we're not going to talk about it. No, I think it's important to talk about. And you talk about atheism, theism, deism, you name it. I think it's important to talk about.
Atheism's a very short discussion.
Yeah, don't believe in God. Yeah. No, it's good. And if you've got time for one last question?
Sure.
Thank you, Steve. I've been enjoying this. I'm going back to interview mode now, so I'm going to ask you some questions really quickly. Do you think life has a purpose?
Life has whatever purpose we make of it.
Right.
So there are two things. One is the purpose of life is procreation.
Okay.
And from an evolutionary point of view, that's all that matters. It's just procreation.
Right.
Beyond that, because we are the sort of beings that we are, that we have intelligence, and we have and we can have concepts and beliefs and behaviors, and we're on planet Earth for as long as we are, then we make what we want out of life. Right. So that has the meaning that it has.
Interesting, yeah.
It has no other meaning beyond.
Yeah, obviously.
It has no meaning like that we're serving some sort
there's
of
no worshipping,
amazing being that's out there that requires us to subjugate ourselves to his greater glory. No?
Yeah. What is your belief after death? Is there
it's same as before death, before life?
Right. Just non-existence, nothing.
Correct.
You're arguing against the possibility of afterlife based on descriptions of afterlife in the Quran, because to you it's too convenient. Not whether or not it actually exists, but because it seems...
I don't believe it exists in the story.
But it's dismissed it because it convenience.
But I can see that it's it has utility for leaders.
Do the leaders, this whole idea of man create God, do the leaders, are they also subjugated to the same rules and discipline that the religion states?
The leaders have to do as they tell their people.
Yeah. Because you seem you implied
100%.
You implied that they don't.
100% they don't.
They don't.
Of course not.
But what if the leaders are doing all those things? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was praying. He was an example.
You don't know what he did.
Of course we do. We have narrations of it.
How many years was he on planet Earth? 60-something years? 64 years.
Yeah.
He was on planet Earth for 64 years.
Yeah.
How much information do you have about it?
Well, a lot. We have compilations of all the reports and sayings that he did. And you've got the Quran itself.
So how long is the Quran?
Dated
how long is the Quran? How long is the Quran?
114 surahs.
Okay. How many wives Muhammad have?
Altogether, altogether, about nine wives.
How many wives would a Muslim follower be allowed to have?
The exception to the rule is 4, but you're usually you're supposed to marry one.
You're only supposed to marry one, but there are exceptions and there are 4.
Yes.
So
if you can do justly to them all.
Let's move on.
You haven't demonstrated
Let's move on.
Okay.
Makes no sense to me.
But that Prophet Muhammad wasn't fasting, praying, an exemplary model for the Muslims? Do you think he wasn't?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to meet the guy. Where was the morality? Why wasn't God around then? Why wasn't he giving all these scriptures?
But he didn't have the Quran. He didn't have the Bible.
Yeah, because it's a later revelation. It's a final revelation. It obviously comes last. Why would it be?
Then why wouldn't he have done it 300,000 years ago?
Whether it's 300 years ago or 3 million years ago doesn't have any bearing on whether God exists or not. He could have just delayed the revelation.
He could have done anything, but he didn't.
Yeah,
but he didn't. Why didn't he give these instructions? So the morality that you understand from the Quran is not the morality that was around even 2,000 years ago, but let alone 100,000 years ago,
similar,
or 200,000
similar
years
but different. Yeah.
And that morality wasn't in place in South America, North America, Europe, Asia, Africa.
Different
it wasn't.
times. No.
It wasn't.
Yeah, so I agree.
Why just in the Middle East, just when Muhammad was around? Why? So if God wants humanity to behave in a universal way and be and kowtow to him in a universal way, everybody and everybody has the opportunity to go to this heaven.
Right.
Why hasn't he explained to everybody 300,000 years ago that this is what he wants? Let's move on.
I don't understand you.
Let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. I still don't. You haven't demonstrated how the leaders aren't following the law. You haven't. You haven't done that.
Look, I don't know whether you did or didn't, but I suspect you probably didn't.
Oh, okay.
Based on what? Historically, you don't have any.
Based on what leaders do.
Okay. What about Jesus? Do you think?
I'm not even sure that he existed.
Oh, really?
He wrote nothing.
You don't have his
There is
contract.
no proof that he wrote anything.
I agree
And
with
on
you.
top of that,
I agree with you.
there are 4 Gospels. They don't agree with each other.
Correct.
And then there are a whole bunch of letters.
Yes, but they all.
So what makes you think that Jesus is of any value at all? You would say that he has no value. But
Islamically-
you would say that he's a prophet.
Islamically, he's a prophet. Yes.
He's a nothing.
What I just said, he's a prophet.
He's a nothing. What's he done? What's he written?
The belief is that he was given guidance and revelation, and so he
But he is
he brought the
God.
good news to the Israelites.
But why didn't he write it down?
He may
And why
have,
did he give
but
it just to the Israelites? Why didn't he give it to the whole world?
Because he was subsequent.
So you're making excuses for him.
No, I'm giving you a reason. For
No, you're making
because-
excuses.
No, the reason, hear it out. The reason is that the final revelation comes after him.
Oh, because that's Islamic belief.
Well, it's not going to be the Buddhist belief; it's the Muslim belief. What else is it going to be? What is it, the
So why would
Indian
you wait?
belief? It's the
Why
Muslim
would you
belief.
wait 600 another 600 years to tell just these Middle Eastern people whatever you're going to tell them,
Right.
rather than telling the whole world?
You're criticizing the years and gaps and ages.
Why shouldn't
but you're
I
not
be?
giving me a
Why shouldn't I
preferred
be?
alternative?
Why shouldn't I be?
Well, if you're able to do that, or done the other thing. If you're willing to do that, then you should be willing to give me an alternative solution. Should it be 400 years, 300 years? What should it be? Which one? Should it be 200 years, 20 years?
200 years for what?
You're criticizing the time it took for the final revelation to come, which was 600 years after Jesus.
It should have come 300,000 years ago. Why
Why?
should all those people not be enlightened about a heaven and a hell? Why should they just
What if
be...
they were? What if they were? But we don't
But
know.
they weren't.
How do we know they weren't?
Prove to me that they were.
Prove that they weren't.
There's no writing. There's nothing to show that.
Yeah.
they
Well,
were.
what else? What was it going to be writing back
I
then?
can't prove to you that pigs can't fly necessarily.
Right. Yes, you can.
But
You
somebody,
can prove it.
I can prove it.
Yeah.
But for somebody to prove that pigs can fly,
Yeah.
how are they going to do that?
Provide you with the evidence.
The onus is on you to prove that there
That
was.
the final revelation would come.
No, that you've got to prove that 300,000 years ago,
Yeah.
that God revealed himself to anybody.
Well, why do I need to do that? I have the final revelation with me now. I have.
But why wasn't it revealed 300,000 years ago?
It's just how God revealed.
I need proof. I need
Yeah.
to know why, how, when, where.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to accept that, oh, well, that's just the way it is.
No, I'm with you. I also need proof and evidence. I'm rationally.
So why was it? Why did
But
it
your
come
question,
300,000
the
years
question you're
ago?
asking is irrational.
Why? No, it's not. Why is that irrational to say 300,000 years ago? Why didn't he prove himself?
God, what if God did prove himself 300,000 years ago? How do we know the beliefs of the people at the time 300,000 years ago? How do we know that?
We don't.
We don't, exactly. So how can we make judgments on that? There's so many questions, Steve, that I got for you. There's just no time flew by, a whole hour and a half. But like always, it's a pleasure, Steve, to talk to you. Maybe we could do a part 2. We'll see how we go. Maybe we could narrow down the topic of interest. But I enjoyed that. I don't know about you.
Good fun.
I respect you as an atheist and a human being. And so this is nothing more than a fruitful conversation on it, I think.
And I respect you as a human being.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it, guys. Don't forget to look into Steve's book, The Man Who Created Religion. I might put
God.
The Man Who Created God. I'll put that as a link for you guys to look into. Is there anything else, Steve, that you want to share with the audience? Anywhere that they can look into or reach out to you? No.
Welcome to get on Sydney Atheist anytime.
Sydney Atheist. So I'll put the link on the website up for you guys. But until then, I'll catch you in the next episode.